it's the key to everything, and it is the container of all other sacred geometry. It has everything in it. We've now checked it with tens of thousands of different things, and what we found is that there is nothing in creation, in the universe, that is not directly constructed through the proportions and the shapes and forms of sacred geometry. Even things that you would never think were geometrical. You know, if you look at crystals and you look in there and you see the atoms and how they're all arranged, you say, well, okay, I can see that. Or if you look at viruses, every virus is a geometrical little polymer in one way or another, polyhedron. And there are, some things are obvious, some things are not obvious. You look at plants and they don't look very obvious. And that takes a little bit deeper to see how sacred geometry is involved in there. Fibonacci is intimately related to how organic chemistry is unfolded, because the key that is behind everything in the universe is the golden mean, the ratio of 1.6180339, and it goes on forever. And that ratio is something that is crucial to life. Life intuitively knows this, but because it is an infinite, it's not a whole number. It's irrational. There's no place where it ever ends. Life can't work with things like that. So it discovered another way, and that is called the Fibonacci sequence. And that starts out as 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 144, 233, and it keeps going forever. And if you look at three numbers like 3, 5, and 8, if you have 5, you just look at the last number where it was before, it was just 3, and then you know what the next number is 8. And so life can determine how growth is just by wherever it's at. It can look where it just was, and it knows where it's going. But the reason it's important is because if you divide 3 into 5, you will get a number very close to 1.618. But if you divide 5 into 8, it gets closer. 8 into 13, it gets closer. 13 into 21, it gets closer. And so by using that particular sequence, life continues to move closer and closer and closer to this golden mean ratio. But each time it makes a growth, it actually gets closer to the perfection of that number, because that last number it just was divided into what it is now is always closer than the set that it was before. It doesn't take very long. 13 into 21 is really close to the golden mean. If you divide 144 into 233, you're really close to it. And as things get farther out, they become so close that the human eye can't tell the difference. It is the way that everything is organized. It's the way to organize life. All of your lattice structures of metals and all of chemistry and everything of that nature are all, without exception, based on sacred geometry. And you really can't understand what's going on in chemistry or physics or architecture or anything structural without understanding sacred geometry. If you don't know that, you are missing the most important key to creation, because you can't understand what it's trying to do. It not only does that, but it links one subject to the other. No matter what subject you're talking about, it's geometrical. And so once you understand the geometries that some subject is using, and then you look at a completely unrelated subject, you could take music in one case and perhaps emotional problems. And how can music and emotional problems be related? They're intimately related, but I can say that about any subject. Because if you look at music, it's all geometrical. It's all mathematics. A lot of physicists think that's the core to everything, but mathematics don't exist on their own. They came out of sacred geometry. First there has to be shape and form and proportion. Then number comes after that. It's where it came out of. And so it's just a very primal way, but if you see how music is, you can then switch over to emotions, and you can see how they relate. Now, emotions, I realize, is a good subject because the feelings you can't imagine that they would be geometrical. Like love. Love is geometrical, or jealousy, that's geometrical. Yes, it's been proven scientifically. And so love has a shape. Hatred has a shape. Every single emotion that we know, whether it's positive or negative, has forms you can hold in your hand that are those feelings. I wasn't trying to prove anything to anybody at all in the world, just myself. And I wanted to make sure, before I went any further, that there was only one God. Different religions have, oh no, there's more than one, and each religion says, no, my God is the only one, yours is wrong. And that was what I was trying to do. I wanted to make sure that this was one coherent thought throughout everything. And by the study of that, at one point, it became very clear to me that there was a single mind that created the entire universe, a single thought. And it can be reduced down to a simple sphere. That's all it is. And the flower of life, which we showed you, is the relationship of how spheres can interlink. And when you get to 19 of these spheres, then the image pattern becomes such that things become very, very clear. But if you slowly work back through the geometry, you come up with that every single thing in existence is inside of a sphere. And there's another set of knowledge that is as old as this universe is. If you take 13 spheres that come out of the flower of life, there's a way you can pull them out. And those 13 spheres are called the fruit of life, is the name I gave to them, because there are 13 ways you can take male lines. I haven't said this. Female lines are curved. They're circular, zigzaggy. Anything that's a curve, that's female. Male lines are straight. And so if you take these 13 circles and you superimpose male lines over them, and there's 13 ways you can do that, they produce 13 different systems of knowledge that create all the little tiny details that are found throughout the universe. And once there was a point there where I got into it, and I said, well, okay, I got it. No matter what we look at, no matter where we go or how we do it, it all comes back to this same pattern. And every single crystal, there's hundreds of thousands of crystals, but every single one of them comes down to the 5 platonic solids, which are one of the sets of the 13 sets of knowledge that comes out of the fruit of life. And so once I realized, okay, it was a single, whoever created the universe, it was one thought, one person, one mind. And when that happened, what we now know is that there's two sides of your mind. There's a left and right side. It's what's called the corpus callosum, links across. And when you know for certain that, every cell in your body knows that for certain, something happens to you, you change. It is a consciousness shift that takes place. I've seen it, I felt it and known it myself, and I've seen it in many people that have gone through this. At that point, your search for unity and of all life everywhere becomes far more focused because you know for certain. Duality is purely an illusion, and that illusion manifests itself in all kinds of ways around our life. And we think it's real. We judge everything. That's good, this is bad, man, that's neutral, and we keep going through all these different things. Everything that happens to us, we're constantly have this little thing that's judging. When you know for sure of the unity of all life, the judging begins to fade away. You begin to realize that it is an illusion. And almost all these spiritual religions and systems that have been developed throughout the world are all aimed at breaking down that polarity, of finding a way where you can see the unity.